Kia ora and welcome back. Before we leap forward into the exceptionally exciting realm of education now and where it can be going, which is just so cool, let's take a very, very, very quick step back in time and we'll fast forward it up through to how we got to where we are now, and then we'll leap it forward to where we can possibly go. So how did we get to where we are now? Let's stop and look at human beings for a little bit. Let's go, 10,000 years worth of what they call human civilization. This is not the existence of human beings on this planet, but this is the existence of human beings living in organized, civilized societies, all together, where people have their certain roles to play. Whether it was the ancient Indians or the Egyptians and in the Africa region, or if leaping forward to the Greeks in the Mediterranean area, and Romans, and all the way up through the medieval ages and the industrial revolutions and the Renaissance and all the time periods and epochs that we've been through in the last 10,000 years of humans living together in some sort of organized society and civilization. And everybody having their particular role to play. Whether there were classes and hierarchies, or whether there were jobs and skills that needed to be learned, human beings have been needing to learn stuff for a really long time. Now, for that 10,000 years, over 9,500 years of those were done with learning at home. Learning with the family, learning as little ones watch older ones and copy, learning by being involved, learning by taking your role and your responsibility and sharing your load of the jobs and chores that needed to be done. Now, it wasn't until that change of the Industrial Revolution, that 1700s kind of change, where they needed massive populations of people to work in the factories. They needed these large workforces. So to get the workforces, they needed to entice everybody in and off the land from their own separate places into these large cities and live them in these large, closed quarters, keeping the parents busy working the factories because of the large demand for the labour force. And then they had to do something with the children. And of course, the children weren't on the farms anymore. And all the roles that they used to play from a little tiny tot all the way up, where they learned their roles on the farm and what to do and how to live life and all the skills that they required to become a successful adult, those roles were all gone. So we needed to do something with these children. So they herded them into buildings, adjacent to the factories, so they could keep the parents that way busily working, and then they could train the younger ones to be the replacement workforce. So, your morning teas and your lunch breaks and your afternoon teas are the same time and the same length that your parents are going to be getting next door in the factories, so that you are conditioned and trained and ready to take their spots as you complete your schooling, your education schooling. And that's the foundation of the main educational system that we're still that forms the basis of a lot of our education still today. There are certain skills of reading, writings and sciences, maths and various things that were deemed and identified to be important to train those children in, so that they could move up the ladder, and some would be, worker bees, and some would go higher up into some leadership roles or some middle management or some higher management if they had the right skills and qualifications. And we stream them and put them into like age groups, because if you put them into the end of the education machine at the same age all together in a class cluster, you'll pop them out the end all at the same time, and they are your next ones ready to go through and take the parental role in the factory and move on. Now, obviously, there's tons of work being done in education over the last few hundred years, but essentially a lot of our system is still doing that. A lot of our system is still identifying this need to funnel children in at one age, keep them together with their same aged peers, run them the whole way through in a logical order, learning certain skills upon the way, reading, writing, maths, etc., and spitting them out the other end, ready to enter the workforce. But of course, that workforce is not the same workforce as when I was young. It's certainly not the same workforce as my parents were young. It's certainly not the same workforce as when my grandparents were young. It's not that long ago that these workforces have changed. And the roles of children have changed. And it used to be that our young people, it wasn't that long ago, my grandparents were required to do formal serve in the military. My father had to do compulsory military training. That was a part of it. It wasn't that long ago that my little brother, he's in his mid-40s now, my little brother, and he decided one day at 15 he didn't like school and school learning anymore. It bored him. And so he just took the day off school one day and he went knocking on the door around the industrial area near where we lived, and then somebody took him on as an apprentice. By the end of the day, he had an apprenticeship. He came home, told mum and dad, hey, I've left school, I've got this apprenticeship, I start on Monday. But so if you didn't like school or school didn't fit for you, you didn't have to be there so much, and that's not that long ago. But those options really aren't there anymore. The world is changing. The jobs that our kids are going into haven't even been created yet. Elon Musk is talking about within his lifetime having 1 million human beings on Mars. They're building rocket ships now to make this happen. Thousands of rocket ships coming out of his factory, so that he can make it happen within his lifetime, that he starts a colony of humans on another planet to become an interplanetary species. People who work in space stations. People are bloggers and Instagrammers and Twitter something or others as jobs. Those words didn't even exist 10 years ago, and now they are lucrative professions. So now we say to our children, goodness me, how do we get you ready to take your role in society? You don't need to serve in a military, you're not working on the farms or working your way up to take over a family business. The jobs that you need haven't even been invented yet. What is your role? What is your purpose? What skills are you meant to be learning? And it's all a little bit juggling balls in the air. And if you look at the graph, we've got 10,000 years of this human civilization growing gently. And then the last couple of hundred years of knowledge base and stuff, we've gone, the graph's just gone straight up. There's been no, gentle flat, up. Okay, let's get our head around this new kind of thinking that we're going to need. What do our children need in terms of thinking and education and skills to not only succeed or enjoy life, but to really thrive in it, to really thrive in life? What do we need to arm them with? And that's the power and the excitement of the new modern education. This is where the deliciousness lies. So let's jump forward and we'll take a little bit of a look.